Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the National Biodiversity Teach-In. Next on our lineup, we have Ted Penesis, and he's going to be talking to us about the Asian carp. Thank you very much, Ted, for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
All right. Thank you, Frankie, and thank you to Deb McMullen and the whole team there at the National Biodiversity Teach-In. This is just really exciting that we have an opportunity to talk about something you may be interested in. You may not know enough about this topic that I'm going to be talking about, but first I'd like to introduce myself. As Frankie mentioned, my name is Ted Penesis. I am the Director of Community Outreach for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. And one of the projects I've been working on lately is Asian carp. And for those of you who may have heard that name, you probably have a negative connotation of it. It is an invasive species. That is the one thing that you probably have heard. It's also a jumper. So if you've ever been, for example, or seen pictures of the fish in, for example, the Illinois River, they jump into boats, they jump into people's heads, people get hurt by them. That's the silver carp. There's 4 different varieties. I'm going to go to more detail about that. But that's one of the things I've been working on lately. We were actually in Elgin not too long ago serving Asian carp for human consumption. And so we're going to be talking about a variety of different things here today. We're going to be talking about science. We're going to be talking about marketing. We're going to be talking about sales. There's a variety of different things that are all interconnected here with this topic that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to share my screen here, open up the PowerPoint so you can take a look at this. And there you see we've got Asian carp. We're calling it the perfect catch, and you're going to find out why. As I mentioned, Asian carp often recognized this way here in the US. As you see, they're jumping. But this is the way you see it around the world, specifically in Southeast Asia. It is a delicacy. A lot of people eat Asian carp, and I'm going to explain why that is a little bit later as well. But that's what the rest of the world thinks about Asian carp. We think about Asian carp as being an invasive species, which it is, but it is also a delicacy, very healthy, tasty fish. So a little bit of background again about the Asian carp. There's 4 Asian carps. 4 different species that you may not be aware of. We've got the black carp, we've got the silver carp, we've got actually the big head carp, silver carp, black carp, and grass carp. There's multiple sources, of course, for Asian carp, but they're native to China and East Asia, and it's one of the most cultured and consumed fish in the world. It was imported into the United States in the 1960s and 1970s to clean ponds. They're voracious eaters. They do a really good job of cleaning ponds. They escaped, and unfortunately, they got into the Mississippi River, and they established themselves in major U.S. waterways, including the Illinois, Missouri, and Ohio River, and tributaries off of all those rivers. And that's where we're at today. Now, this is a black carp. Take a look at the size of this guy. That's a pretty big fish, as you can see there. This is over 100 pounds, up to 115 pounds. Some of the black carps get as far as size go. We have a lot of fishermen out there that are fishing, harvesting Asian carp, and we'll take a look at how they actually do that. And you can see a variety of different things here of there's netting, and usually they go out in a team. The way they catch them with the nets, it's very environmental. There's not a lot of what we call bycatch. They design the holes in the nets so that the size of the fish that they catch are Asian carp, and pretty much exclusively Asian carp, so you're not going to be getting any other fish in there. So the bycatch is very low, designed by how they size the holes in the nets. So we'll take a little short little video here that you could take a look at how they fit.
So we're here the first 2 weeks of March, and we're working in the Illinois River up by Morris, Illinois. using commercial fishermen to remove thousands of pounds, 40,000 pounds this week, of bighead and silver carp, or what we commonly call Asian carp.
What you thinking of putting out, Sean? Probably all how many 100 yards of net do you guys put out?
1,000 yards here right now.
To the bank.
So the reason we use commercial fishermen, these are people who know how to catch bighead and silver carp in other areas of the Mississippi and lower Illinois River. We've been able to use their skill set to actually reduce populations in the upriver by 50% here in these moderate populations, and at the leading edge by over 68%. Commercial fishermen are really the key. These are hard-working people. They know how to catch fish. They know the river. They know how to do it safely. So one of our biggest tools in this fight to keep fish from the upper Illinois River and move them downstream are these commercial fishermen, these hard-working people here in Illinois.
That's the video, and then you're seeing the variety of different organizations that are involved, and I'm going to slide forward to the Asian Carp Regional Coordinating Committee. As you saw at the end of that video, there are 27 different U.S. and Canadian federal, state, provincial, and regional institutions who are part of this Asian Carp Regional Coordinating Committee, who are designed to monitor a variety of different things, but really the main thing is we want to make sure that we keep them out of the Great Lakes. There is a multi-billion-dollar fishing industry in the Great Lakes, and I call him our Asian carp guru on that video, Kevin Irons. He is our Assistant Chief of Fisheries for the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and he's been involved in Asian carp for a decade, and he is respected around the world for his knowledge regarding Asian carp. So I call him the Asian carp guru. And he is, and I was talking about the Monitoring Response Work Group. He is co-chair with the state of Illinois on that and the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. And because of this organization, the Asian Carp Regional Coordinating Committee, we are able to look at marketing and branding Asian carp for human consumption. So where are we getting the fish? The overall strategy is, if you look up here by the Chicago area in the blue circle ellipse, that is the Chicago area waterway system. And that's where we're going to have an electronic barrier. We do already have barriers up, and there's going to be a $800 million electronic barrier that is planned that's within 7-8 years that is going to be on the Des Plaines River near Joliet. To make sure that they don't get into the Illinois River, into the Great Lakes. The Illinois River leads into the Des Plaines River. The Des Plaines River is the gateway into the Great Lakes. So we want to make sure that we keep them out of there through this enhanced electronic barrier that's being planned. Going a little bit further south and west, this is an area, the upper Illinois River, where Kevin talked about, and with the video that you saw, where we have contract removal of the fish there. As Kevin mentioned on the video, that population of Asian carp in this area is down to 5% of what it was in 2012. So they're doing a great job at this. The modeling, it's science driven as far as what they're doing, as far as the removal efforts go. And they're always responding as needed. In case they get out of this area, they're always going to be ready to go. The lower river here, this is the thing that we're going to be talking about a little bit here more, about human consumption, about getting people to eat it, because this is going to be the first step of where we're going to be getting most of the fish. That's where we got the commercial fishermen. We have a workforce. There's been a history of, successful industry as far as fishers go in Illinois dating back to the 1900s. This could be a way to jumpstart the fishing industry again, the commercial fishing industry here in Illinois is through Asian carp. So we're looking at this as a model. We're going to be a model for the rest of the nation as far as this effort goes, as far as harvesting Asian carp. So the challenges, so here's the challenge that we have. Most people think of carp, they think it's a four-letter word, carp. This is Asian carp, but it's not really a carp. It represents dozens of species. The name carp, common carp, was introduced in the 1880s across the US, came from Germany, came from Europe. It's well known, has a very strong, muddy taste because it's a bottom feeder. And that is not what Asian carp is. Asian carp is not your grandpa's carp. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change the perception of Asian carp because it is not your grandpa's carp. It's very mild tasting. It's light, flaky, and very healthy, very nutritious. High in omega-3 fatty acids, high in iron, off the charts on iron, which is really important that you have that. As far as a protein source goes, not outstripped by a lot of things out there. And then if you compare it to beef, pork, chicken, all those healthy aspects of this, Asian carp is healthier than all of those too. And then of course, the main thing why we're involved in this and the whole point is it's the right thing to do ecologically. It's the green choice. We are protecting our environment, protecting the ecology of our rivers. And as I mentioned, Asian carp is not a bottom feeder. Very important to remember, it is not a bottom feeder. That's why it is so healthy. So if you look at this, it feeds on zooplankton and phytoplankton, which is it's a top level filter feeder. And if you look at the gills here, the gills are sponge-like. They're really sponge-like, so they get to the minute materials that are floating on the water. And so basically what it's doing is it's taking the food source of all the sports fish that are out there, and it dominates the river because they're voracious eaters. Dominates the river. In some cases, 90% of the biomass of our waterways in Southern Illinois are Asian carp. So that's one of the reasons that we want to make sure that we start harvesting Asian carp at a higher level, is so that we could return our rivers to a natural balance, so that the sports fish industry can, rebound, and so that people can catch other fish besides Asian carp. So here's the distribution of Asian carp throughout throughout the United States. The large rivers, including the Illinois River, that is 240 miles that we're going to be focusing on here in Illinois as far as harvesting efforts go. There is up to 50 million pounds annually that we could harvest in the Illinois River. But if you look at this map, you could see the main thrust of Asian carp is really here in the middle of the country, from Illinois south, following the Mississippi River and its tributaries all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And as I mentioned, up to 90% in some cases of the waterways in this area, Asian carp. It's a healthy choice, as I said, high in protein. We've got that historic fishing identity here in Illinois, so that's why I think we're going to be successful, hopefully, at doing this, because we have the fishers that are ready to do this for us, and they're already starting and harvesting this Asian carp. Again, very nutritious fish, great source of protein, high in omega-3 fatty acids. It's a clean, top-feeding, freshwater fish, very low in contaminants and heavy metals, compares favorably to other commercially available fish such as tuna, cod, and orange roughy. And if you look at this chart here, check this out. This is just for mercury as an example. Look how low the silver carp, remember there's 4 different species of Asian carp. You got the silver carp and the big head carp. The majority of the fish that we're going to be catching are going to be silver carp, approximately 70%, probably more, and it's probably going to increase, of the fish that we're going to be harvesting in the Illinois River are going to be silver carp, and then you're going to have a smaller percentage of big head carp, not a lot of black or grass carp in the Illinois River. But look at those levels, look at those mercury levels compared to the other fish, compare that to orange roughy, compare that to tuna. Very, very low in mercury and other heavy metals, as I mentioned. The contaminant levels are really low compared to other commercially available fish. So we have an opportunity here. Eat well, do good. As I mentioned, the whole point of what we're doing here is to help our environment. So we want to eat well, do good. We have a key moment here to develop a public-private partnership to help solve this problem. So we created a marketing strategy to aid the industry and help to prevent the spread of Asian carp. We're combining two things in once here. We've had some proven success in dining halls throughout Illinois, but specifically the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. They've been serving Asian carp down there for quite a while. One of the things we're going to be looking at down there too is there is a high Asian population in at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and for those who are from Asia, the one thing you have to know about Asian carp is it's a bony fish. There's a lot of little tiny bones, and coming from Asia, they don't have a problem eating and taking those little tiny bones out of there. So I think what we need to do, one of the things we're going to be looking at doing is possibly trying to get those Asian students to teach our American students how they can eat Asian carp bone in. Because it is a very bony fish, and they're so used to eating it with the bones in. We think that we have an opportunity here to help teach our students how to eat it with the bone in. So rebranding, we're looking at the rebranding here. As I mentioned, you're going to be getting a lot of learning lessons here in a variety of different fields. And one of them is the marketing field and the rebranding operation. We have already started. And we worked with our Asian Carp Steering Committee, which included the U.S. EPA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, our Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity here in Illinois, Southern Illinois University, Indiana Wildlife Federation, Illinois Department of Natural Resources. That's us, part of the steering committee, to discuss the rebranding operation. We were able to contract a team of experts who were charged with rebranding Asian carp and to make it increasingly desirable for consumption. In turn, of course, the whole point of this is we want to help mitigate the ecological challenges of Asian carp. And provide another thing is one of the things we did in Elgin and a variety of other areas in the state over the past year, we held food relief efforts with Asian carp, and we got some great responses from people. There's a lot of people out there that are hungry these days, so that's one opportunity that I think we can take advantage of to help those who are hungry. We conducted outreach with a variety of other Illinoisans across Chicagoland, and 75% of them considered fish one of their favorite foods. I don't know how you feel about fish. I'm not a fish eater, but I will tell you this. Neither is my wife. We tried Asian carp because it's very mild tasting. It's all how you, what ingredients you use. So if you're, like it's kind of a blank slate for some people, especially like some big top level chefs that we're going to be working with. It's kind of a blank slate because it's so mild tasting. Whatever recipes you have for chicken, for beef, for pork, or for other fish, it absorbs those ingredients. And so in a lot of cases, it doesn't taste like fish. It doesn't have a fishy taste or smell, which is people are really surprised by. They hear Asian carp and it's not fishy, it doesn't taste fishy, it doesn't smell fishy. That is correct, it does not. So 78% of the people that we did outreach with did consider fish as one of their favorite foods. 28% of them, have a favorite restaurant that specializes in fish. So basically we were looking at fish lovers, and when describing their habits as far as eating, they want something that's healthy. They want something that's indulgent, something that they're going to enjoy, something that's clean. Those are all qualities of Asian carp. So freshness, flavor, sustainability, those are three top considerations to consider. Those are all qualities of Asian carp. And when we mention the word sustainability, we're talking about from a perspective of there's billions of pounds of Asian carp in our rivers, from the Illinois River all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We're not looking at creating fish farms, for example. This is from a sustainability perspective. When I use that word, I'm talking about there are billions of pounds. It's going to be years before there is ever a chance that we're going to fish out Asian carp like has happened in a lot of other fish industries. That's not going to happen because we have so many millions, and as I said, probably billions of pounds of Asian carp that are available to us right now. It's fresh, flavorful, savory, clean, simple, light. Those were 6 descriptions that our respondents to our surveys used to describe the way they like fish to taste. Again, that's Asian carp. Fresh, flavorful, savory, clean, simple, light. That's all Asian carp. We found that Asian carp has a lot of the characteristics people love about fish, but there is that perception issue, again, going back to the name, based on the name. So it's not a unique problem. So that's great news. Fish have been renamed in the past, whether it was chefs or foodies or anglers that wanted to try a new thing. But, again, we talked about overfishing. It's not a possibility with this for Asian carp. And we just have so much of it right now. So the biomass is so high. So in a lot of cases, people are just looking for something new to eat. And I think we have that opportunity to provide that. All right. So what's this word? A hookatao. What is that? Well, that is, if you look at the picture, that is the avocado. So that has been renamed. How about slimehead? Does that look familiar to you? Slimehead is orange roughy. So names have been changed in the past for products, food products, as you see here on this list. Avocado was also called alligator pear. They changed that name to avocado. Chinese gooseberry is kiwi. Here's one of my favorites, the Patagonian toothfish. Wouldn't you just love to eat a Patagonian toothfish? I sure wouldn't, but I have, because it's Chilean sea bass, which is actually a cod. Goosefish was renamed to monkfish. Slimehead, as I mentioned earlier, orange roughy. Dolphinfish, who wants to eat a dolphin? It's not actually dolphin, it's mahi-mahi. Horse mackerel, who wants to eat a horse? That's king mackerel. Stumptown is whitefish. So there's a variety of different names that have been changed for food products in the past. And so that's what we're looking at doing for Asian carp. We've got a marketing team that we've assembled. They're collaboratively designing a new brand identity for this fish based on its true characteristics. As I mentioned, clean, healthy, all those things describe Asian carp. We've done a lot of market research, market testing on all of the rebranding operation. And we're not, we're embracing transparency here. That word Asian carp, we've done a lot of work on trying to change people's perception of Asian carp over the past year. So people are getting a better idea of what Asian carp is based on what we're doing. So we're not hiding the fact that this is Asian carp. I don't want to do that, because I've done a lot of work in the past year to try to change people's opinion of Asian carp and make sure that they're aware that is a healthy and tasty fish. So we're not going to hide that. We're not going to hide the ball on that. But our rebranding team, they've come up with a toolkit. So we'll have some stories to tell about Asian carp. We're going to have a new name, which we're not going to release. You're not going to hear that until the summer. We're going to create a variety of different items here, as you see here, for food processors, retailers, chefs, restaurateurs, food service, food advocacy. They're all going to be able to get this toolkit. So we're preparing for a national launch. So come this summer, you may be hearing a lot more about Asian carp, because it's going to have a new name. We're going to rename it. It's going to be whatever that new name is, but it's also going to be Asian carp. Like I said, we want to be transparent here. But for a lot of people, the name Asian carp, especially that 4-letter word carp, they can't put that on a menu. So we're going to come up with a new name for this. And it's in the vault. You're not going to be able to see it when we launch this in the summer. You'll be hearing a lot more about it nationally. And we're going to be doing that rollout, for the marketing end of this. We're going to have a website. We're creating film and video that you're going to be able to see. Social media, of course, is everywhere now. So we're going to be doing a social media ad campaign. And we're looking for philanthropic organizations to participate in this as well. So we hope to get a lot of partners involved in this. Starting a new product, it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of money. And we're looking at partners on this. We've done the research, design, marketing, all funded by Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Our goal, as I mentioned earlier, is to help the environment while creating a positive impact in the food system and economic opportunities for a variety of different organizations. We think that this is going to be a job creator too as well. And in the culinary industry alone, let's move on to culinary. There is a paradox because of that name. Asian carp is plentiful locally. It's wild and sustainable. It's versatile. It's high quality protein source, but it's misunderstood. It's maligned. It's disregarded. We need to change that. And that's what this campaign is going to be doing. There's a variety of ways to cook this up. You've got the whole fish here. You got boneless strips. You got the minced product, as you can see here. That minced product, very versatile. I had the best tacos I've ever had in my life when we were holding a statewide cookout event this summer. We had an Asian carp cookout throughout the state, and it was fantastic. The different varieties that were cooked up, like I said, you name it, fish cakes, chili. There's a variety of different products that were made, but the tacos that I had, oh my gosh, fantastic. The boneless strips, there's a variety of things you could do with those boneless strips. These are just some examples of what you could do with the boneless strips. We're looking at smoking it as well. But again, there's so many different variety of ways to cook this up because it's so mild tasting and versatile. I really think that we're on the cusp of something where this is hopefully going to take off. But we need to do some sales and marketing, and we want to deliver that Asian carp from the river to the table. And this gentleman right here that you're seeing on the screen, his name is Chris Ketke, and he is a well-respected, world-renowned chef who is helping us with this product. And he created some patties. This was out in Aurora. We were doing a food relief effort. He created some fish patties, some Asian carp patties that were just fantastic. I got to tell you, everyone loved them. Marketing, we're going to hit all the channels. Retail, we're going to get some anchor partners. For example, we're looking for some supermarkets. Food service, of course, distributors, industrial. We're going to get all those together. But, we need to sell it, so we're going to be doing some sales presentations. We're going to be continuing to do some product samples, some marketing and collateral materials, as I mentioned earlier, promotional programs, social media, PR programs, community engagement, all that stuff that I talked about earlier. We're going to continue doing that after we do our launch in June. So that's basically it as far as the presentation goes. I would be happy to answer any questions that we may have that have come in. And I could also go into a little more detail about Asian carp as well. And
I thought it was quite funny, Ted. One of the questions that came in right at the beginning was, I didn't know that it was so healthy. Maybe a name change. So right away at the beginning of your presentation, someone was suggesting a name change.
That's hilarious. Yeah, the name change. And you know what? People have mentioned that for several years now. It's like, if we could just change that name of carp, because carp does not cover what this fish is. And so that's one of the things, as I said, we created the steering committee. We have, the federal government, our neighbors in Indiana, and then, of course, us and, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity got together and said, what do we need to do here? We need to rebrand this. And it all starts with a name change. So it's kind of exciting. Again, though, transparency, we don't want to hide the fact that this is Asian carp. And like I said, we've been doing a lot of efforting as far as changing the opinion of Asian carp over the past year, myself specifically. So we don't want to hide the ball per se, that this is Asian carp. But if you're going to see Asian carp on a menu, a lot of people aren't going to buy that. If you see whatever that name is,
you might. You buy avocados, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Slime head? Yeah. You're not going to buy slime head. Yeah. No. Patagonian toothfish? Come on. I love Chilean sea bass, but I'm not going to be buying toothfish.
Yeah. So is it available in stores yet?
It will be. So when we do this launch, it's available in some stores right now, not a lot, but that's what we're focusing on right now, is getting the businesses to sell this. So by the time we do our launch with the new name, we're going to have a variety of restaurants and grocery stores, hopefully, that will be able to sell this fish.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Yeah.
When did you first become interested in the Asian carp, and what triggered your interest?
Okay, that's a very good question. So how I got involved with Asian carp. So I've been with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for a little over a year and a half now. I had been aware and have known about Asian carp, though, for a decade, like a lot of people have, in a lot of the negative connotative ways. But the more I learned about it, the more I was like, for some reason, it's just people have that opinion, and I'm talking, 5-star chefs. They think that Asian carp is a bottom feeder, is your regular common carp. So I was like, okay. So when I started this job, my main focus is, as far as director of community outreach, I'm looking at, youth, trying to get youth more involved, and mainly our underserved audiences, like in minority communities. And, Elgin, I think, is one area that I want to work on. So I've been doing a lot of, previously was doing fishing derbies, different types of events that focused on youth. And then guess what happens? A pandemic. So I was like, okay, we have a pandemic going on here. It's a little difficult to do some outreach right now. So I was looking at some issues that IDNR was working on that hadn't really gained any traction as far as moving forward. Now, like I said, we're doing a great job as far as mitigating the problem, as far as Asian carp, as far as getting into the Great Lakes. We've really lowered the odds of that happening. We've really dropped the population, leading into that leading edge has really dropped. So IDNR has done a great job, but we haven't really gotten over that hump where it's like we could really just take the millions and millions of pounds out of there as we move down to the Illinois River. And then, like I said, we could go all the way down to the Gulf Coast. So I was like, what can I do to try to help move this along and try to get something going? And so the human consumption market, I always thought was something that was available and would be possible. But it all goes back to that name. So that was really interesting. I mean, it was like, I didn't have to get involved with this issue. It was a challenge for me. Quite frankly, it was a challenge. I thought it was a challenge and something that can be accomplished. Now, like I said, we've been working on this for a decade, and it's not just us here in Illinois. There's a variety of states that have been working on this. So I don't want to say that, we're going to be totally successful at this because, there's history here that where it hasn't happened. But I think, starting off where we could get a name change, if there's a possibility that we could get that name changed, I think that's a new ball game. I think that's the game changer. Because if we come up with a name that's palatable to people as far as finding it on a menu, and, the other thing too is, we need to have partners in this, and we have some, big time chefs who are interested in participating with us. And, if we get the buy-in from them and some of these bigger, food manufacturers and organizations, I think that would go a long way towards getting buy-in from the general public. Because if these big time chefs think this is something that's worthwhile, it's going to filter its way down in the industry and then also to the general public.
It's been a popular question throughout this National Biodiversity Teach-In. How has the pandemic impacted your job? And for you, it seems to have totally changed your focus.
It did. And, I'm doing this now. And like I said, we've got a team in place. And once we do this launch, I am transitioning now and trying, and I will be doing other stuff as we move forward. I hope to stay involved in this. But it was like, you get handed lemons, you make lemonade. It's the same thing with Asian carp. Maybe we call it lemonade for a new name for Asian carp. No, but you get handed lemons, you make lemonade out of it. What can you do to make the situation, better? And I think that's the way you have to look at life. You're always going to be handed challenges. And what you do with those challenges and how do you react to those challenges is what's going to be, make you successful in life. And I think that's a lesson that everyone could learn from this pandemic. This is horrible. I never would have expected something like this to happen.
Oh.
And it's, knock on wood, things seem to be turning here very well. Where we're going to be getting out of this pandemic. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm holding events. My first event that I'm going to be holding is going to be on June 12th. Not in Elgin. It's going to be in another location, but I'm looking at doing some stuff in Elgin as well. But I'm looking at June 12th. I'm looking at having a summer this year. Let's see what happens. If we have to cancel events, I will do that, but I'm planning events all throughout the summer starting on June 12th. And I'm pretty confident, with the number of vaccines that are going to be manufactured, the distribution levels that we're seeing, keep those fingers crossed. I think we're going to have summer.
That's a good time to get into the waterways and get the fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's a question from Facebook. Maybe you talked about this, but the electric barrier doesn't bother other fish too?
Well, it does, but again, it's kind of like with the netting. So how we caught these fish, Asian carp, as you saw in that video, the size of the nets, where it's like we reduce the amount of bycatch that happens because of the size of the nets. That's the way these electronic barriers are going to be designed. It's going to be focused. There's always going to be some that are going to get in there, but it's designed in a way to just target the Asian carp. And, we're looking at, it could be upwards of $800 million, that the cost of this. So that's why it's going to be costing so much, is the way it's designed. It's going to be safe, and it's going to target Asian carp and Asian carp.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Another question from Facebook. I have heard scientists are studying using carbon dioxide to create barriers for carp. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, there are some different options that are out there right now. They're doing some stuff in Kentucky regarding that. They're doing testing. They're just trying to figure out ways to see what's best. And the one way, honestly, they actually did some things where they tried to poison the fish, and it's like, come on. We were in this situation because we messed with Mother Nature in the first place. And I think that's the way we have to look at this. How do we address this issue without introducing any other possible unintended consequences that would come from this? And the best way to do that is to harvest the fish, lower the population of the fish so that it gets down to a manageable level where we could return our rivers to, a natural resource again, honestly, so that there's sports fishing available, that people could go water skiing again in the Peoria Pool, Illinois River, where we're starting out this whole thing. It's had an impact on, fishing licenses, because people, their favorite fish isn't there anymore because of the voracious appetite of Asian carp. It's taken over those rivers. So how do you do that? Reduce the level of Asian carp in a natural way, and that's eating them. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at this. We're not introducing anything else into these waterways. We're just removing those Asian carp and reduce them to a manageable level so that, the river can return to a natural level. Mm-hmm. There are, like I said, they're looking at a variety of different ways, and that is one that they're looking at too. But I think this is the best way, honestly, because it's not introducing anything else into the picture.
Let's see. In your job, in the work that you do, how much of your time do you spend in the field, out in the waterways, doing investigations?
Well, we have fish biologists, and I mentioned Kevin Irons. He spends a lot of time in our waterway. We have fish biologists who are out there quite a bit. I am not a fish biologist. I conduct community outreach, so I'm not out there. I have been out there and have observed the Asian carp. So I am not specifically the one that does that. And we also have contracted fishermen who do that. And then we have our commercial fishermen. The commercial fishing industry right now, it's been struggling for years. And we have a workforce that's in place right now. And that's why I mentioned, that I think this is a possibility where this could be a real job creator, because if we could get the fishing industry going again, and again, the thing regarding Asian carp, you have to remember too, is because it doesn't have that fishy smell or fishy taste, because it's so mild tasting, it's going to appeal to those who aren't interested in fish, because that taste all in how you prepare it. And like I said, I am not a big fish eater. It's one of those acquired tastes that I'm actually like more now than I did when I was, for example, in high school. But I'm still not a big, fish eater. And the thing that was the most shocking to me was that, wow, this is fish? Really? I just couldn't believe it. So I think we have a wider audience than just the fish eaters as well. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing that's kind of exciting about this. In my background, I come from a communications and marketing background. So this was kind of cool to get involved in this. I'm going to do that, in my outreach, with youth and, that kind of stuff, using those skills that I have gained over the years. But, my background is from, I used to work at a TV station, then I used to, work in other state agencies and local governments, from park districts to school districts to, villages and cities. And using all that past experience that I have has helped me, not just in what I'm doing here with Asian Carp, but it's helped me in my role as far as being successful at what I'm doing as far as events go. And I think, that's one of the things that, when you're in high school, like I said, some of the things that this whole issue with Asian Carp has, there's a variety of different fields this touches upon, and the marketing communications end it does, and then from the scientist end, if you're interested in being a fish biologist, this is just like so exciting for someone if they're interested in getting into this field. Hey, you know what? If you're interested in fishing, we could use some fishermen out there. If you want to come out and fish Asian carp, we've got some teams available that would love to have you on board. So there's a variety of different fields that Asian Carp touches upon and what we're doing as far as this initiative goes. So that's kind of cool too, that wide range of interests go
Yes.
into what we're doing here.
I find it very interesting because with your marketing background, we haven't talked to anybody with that background yet. And I think it's very interesting to see how you're bringing that into the science and you're solving the problem, a science biodiversity problem with your marketing skills.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's science, all that we're doing, the modeling that we're doing, it's all science driven as far as removing the fish. So this is all about science. And just like what I mentioned, from my DNR's perspective, we're not the salesman. We brought in experts to help with the marketing, to help with the outreach as far as this stuff, because we're not the experts in the field. We're the experts at the environment and helping shape how Asian carp will, be reduced and mitigating those strategies into the future. So we focus on what we do best. And then because of the Asian Carp Regional Coordinating Committee, and also money from, there's an organization called the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, designed to make sure that we keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. There's some federal money that we're getting from there, where we have this opportunity to try to create this market to help mitigate what we're doing, to help mitigate the environmental damage that the Asian carp are doing. So it's perfect storm what we have going on right now, where we have this opportunity, and it's just really exciting point that we're at right before I think everything's going to break. So it's kind of exciting.
In science education, we're using the next generation science standards, and they're three-dimensional. And one dimension is the science and engineering practices. And one of the things one of those science and engineering practices questioning, which I can see that you're doing a lot of questioning in order to come up with your plan. Another one is modeling. You've mentioned modeling many times, and that's actually one of our science and engineering practices.
Right.
Communication is one of our science and engineering practices, and it's nice to hear all of those things. It's not just, we have a hard time, because we're in the pandemic, many kids or parents don't feel like the students are doing science because they're not doing the experimentation, but that's just one of the science and engineering practices.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. So, moving forward, I think, as far as Asian carp goes, probably, I use that word sustainable because we have to remember, the overfishing is a real problem throughout the world. And I use that word hesitantly, sustainable, because it's when I'm talking sustainable, we're talking about billions of pounds. Again, if you go all the way down to the Gulf Coast, we focus, first, take care of the issue, as I mentioned, down to 5% where we were in 2012 on that leading edge going into the Great Lakes through the Des Plaines River. Moving our way down the river to the Peoria Pole, which is the area around the city of Peoria on the Illinois River, That's where our focus is going to be. We've provided a 10-cent incentive for fishermen who are focused on that area. And then we're just going to continue moving down the Illinois River to the Mississippi River and the Wabash River, the Ohio River. And then I said the tributaries all the way off those rivers too, the Kaskaskia, the Missouri River. They're all loaded with Asian carp. So overfishing isn't going to be an issue. Let's say we do a great job and this becomes the most popular fish out there. That would be great. I would love if that was to happen. There could be a possibility that we would get to a point where, yes, there may be a point where if you're eating billions of pounds a year, we may get to a point where we could eradicate Asian carp. But the one thing that fish biologists, they kind of are hesitant to say this. But once Asian carp get established in a river, they kind of think that it's kind of hard to basically get rid of them completely. So I don't think we're ever going to get to that point where we're going to overfish Asian carp to the point where we eradicate them. It would be nice to do that because remember, they are an invasive species. They weren't here originally. So eradicating them from our river waterways probably, would be great if we could do that. But most biologists think that that's a goal that is pretty far out there. I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point.
Do we have issues in the Fox River with the Asian carp?
We do not. There is a dam. So the Fox River is a tributary of the Illinois River, and there is a dam just north of the Illinois River that is keeping them out. So we don't anticipate them getting into the Fox River. You never know. But really, it's everything south of there. All the waterways south of the confluence of the Fox River and the Illinois River, going all the way down to southern Illinois. Most of the waterways south of there do have Asian carp, but not the Fox River. Knock on wood again, due to that dam just north of the confluence of the Illinois River.
Let me take a look and see if there are any more questions online. Let's see. I think that has you've answered a lot of questions for us, and I think we have answered all of them. I thank you very much for your time. This has been very interesting. I'm going to be interested to see where this goes in the next couple of years, and I hope that you'll join us again next year and give us an update on where you are at.
Yeah, that would be great.
What's happening with this.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. And that's what I keep telling people. It's like, this whole process, it's like one step forward, one step back. There's been a lot of challenges in this whole venture that we've been doing. But, it's like the infinitesimal step forward. You just keep moving forward. And so I always tell people, I was like, look at where we were last year and look at where we are today. And then, yeah, we have done quite a bit. It doesn't seem like it because it seems like once we get focused on something, it's like, no, we can't do that. We're going to have to do something else. And that's been the process the whole way through. So it would be really exciting to see. I would love to come back next year and tell you, well, look at all the Asian carp out there and look how much people have enjoyed the fish. Because I think we're going to be at that point. I think there's a strong possibility that we're going to be seeing a new market created. And that's kind of exciting. The thing that's most exciting about it, honestly, from an IDNR perspective, is that we're solving an ecological disaster in our river.
And in at the same time, we're creating a new industry. You would be creating a totally new industry and creating jobs for people. And it seems like it's mainly in the Midwest, in this area here. So it seems like a good...
Locally sourced. It's a locally sourced fish. So that's also good from an environmental perspective. And yeah, I did mention, as far as being a job creator, I foresee if once this takes off, directly supporting. So, we have a fish processing plant right on the river, since we started this in the past year, called Source Freshwater Company. That's a company that has just started. We have formed the Midwest Fish Co-op, the first of its kind fishing co-op. that was created here in Illinois. Just a small number of jobs there that have been created, but once this gets ramping up, I could see directly in just those two alone a lot of jobs being created, and then just go into the food industry and how many jobs will be created indirectly once we get this new industry up and started. We're talking minimum hundreds. I mean, I'm thinking, ultimately thousands of jobs. Maybe by this time next year, I'll be telling you that this is how many jobs have been created, 100, 200 jobs. And then 2 years from now, thousands of jobs. I really think that this is something, as far as the economy goes, this is a perfect time to do this. I mean, most people think that, with this pandemic going on, it wasn't a good time with all the restaurants being closed. And that is absolutely true.
Right.
It's a real
Didn't even think of
struggle.
that.
Yeah, it's been a real struggle trying to get restaurants involved with this. But they've stepped up. We've had a lot of restaurants. Like I said, we had the Asian Carp Cookout back in October. We had a lot of restaurants who participated in that. So the interest is out there. It's really exciting to see the interest in the food industry and the culinary industry. I think that's only going to expand once people learn more about it. And we're on the cusp of something big here. I really do believe that.
Well, I'm so excited to see what happens. I'm excited also to hear about the name change when that is revealed to us.
Yes. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled this
Definitely.
summer. Keep your eyes peeled this summer. Yeah.
Okay, it's coming out in the summer.
Yeah.
So we'll keep our eyes and ears open, and we'll wait to hear more about the Asian carp and its new name.
Absolutely, Frankie.
Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing this information. And as I said, we look forward to hearing all about this next year when everything has been revealed, and follow up with you on what's happened.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for this opportunity, for sharing this information. The more people that learn about what Asian carp really, truly is, a healthy, tasty fish, the better we'll all be.
Great. Thank you very much, Ted. Have a good afternoon.
You too.